Hi and welcome back to our channel. I am Raquel from MHFamilyAdventures. Thanks for clicking on this video. If you are new to our channel, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, we really do appreciate your support. If you've been following along on our journey, you would know that we just returned from our hashtag Major Summer Vacay 2022, where we went on 8 cruises over the course of 2 months. And so I'm really excited to share our personal review on our first Alaskan cruise. So we took our very first Alaskan cruise with Carnival, Carnival Splendor, here in July, and it was one of the best cruises that we've ever had. I'm gonna give a very quick review on what we thought of our first Alaskan cruise. We're gonna break this review down by ship, ports, and excursions. All right, so first thing, Carnival Splendor. So this was our very first time sailing on Carnival Splendor. And if you're not familiar, Carnival Splendor was in Australia, but recently came over to Seattle for guests to take Alaskan cruises. So this was our very first time on Carnival Splendor or any class of ship like Splendor. It was definitely a unique ship, but there was things that we liked about it and some things that we didn't like about it. So first, the things that we did not like about Carnival Splendor. The first thing would be that, and I don't know if this was based on this being an Alaskan cruise or not, but typically when you get on a Carnival ship, you know, Carnival ships are known as the fun ship. And we just did not find the fun on Carnival Splendor. And I don't know whether this is because with an Alaskan cruise, it's very different from a Caribbean cruise. So I don't know whether it was just that they were catering to a different type of demographics than you would find sailing out of like Port of Miami headed to the Bahamas. But it just felt like the fun squad just wasn't a whole lot of fun. They did have activities throughout the day. They had lots and lots of trivia. Trivia was probably the #1 activity that they had on board. But it just felt like, I don't recall not one fun squad by name, but I could tell you on other ships that I've sailed with Carnival, I could recall some fun squad by name. So it just felt like for this ship, the fun squad just was not as fun as they usually are. All right, and again, I don't know whether this was just because this was an Alaskan cruise or not, but I just felt like on Carnival Splendor, as far as those fun days at sea, there just weren't a whole lot of activities planned for these days. So again, there was a lot of trivia. They had bingo pretty much every day of the cruise. But some of those fun activities that you would normally have, like those deck parties, the deck games and fun things, that did not happen on Carnival Splendor. And again, it could be that it's an Alaskan cruise, it's a more laid back type of cruise. So if you're expecting to go to Alaska and have that same experience or same vibe that you would have going to the Caribbean, then an Alaskan cruise might not be for you. Because we found some days where we were kind of just twiddling our thumbs and sitting out on our balcony. Now, keep in mind, this is an Alaskan cruise, so you're gonna have some amazing views the entire cruise, especially if you have a balcony cabin or if you decide to sit out on the open decks. So that I felt like took up most of our time on those sea days, was just sitting out, looking at nature, looking at the ocean, hoping to spot a whale. But as far as activities, there weren't a whole lot of activities on Carnival Splendor. All right, and the other thing that we were so disappointed in on Carnival Splendor was the food quality. And if you've been following the vlogs, you would know that I've kind of shared this throughout the vlog. We just felt like the food overall on Carnival Splendor was probably the worst that we've had on a Carnival ship. Down to even the steakhouse. We had a terrible experience in the steakhouse. I felt like my ribeye was a piece of roast. It was so big and so like stringy. It was just the quality overall. The buffet, they kept repeating. So breakfast pretty much was the same exact items every single day. And keep in mind, this was a 7-day cruise. So after the first couple of days, you're tired of eating the same options. So literally they had the exact same menu for breakfast on the buffet. The only thing that they swapped out was one day they would have bacon, the next day they would have sausage. So there just weren't a whole lot of options on this ship. So we were quite disappointed in the food quality. Now, the main dining room was a little bit better than the buffet, but again, it is not the same quality that we've experienced on other Carnival cruise ships. So we were pretty disappointed in the food options. And also on this ship, if you have been following our journey, you know that Blue Iguana is one of my favorite things to have, one of my favorite Carnival restaurants, and it does not exist on Carnival Splendor. So if you are a Blue Iguana lover like I am, just know that Carnival Splendor does not offer Blue Iguana Cantina. Now let me just go ahead and say that there are way more pros to Carnival Splendor than there are cons. So those three things that I just shared, the fun squat, the lack of activities, and the food quality were the only things that really disappointed us about Carnival Splendor. There were some really, really, really great things about Carnival Splendor. The first thing that we loved about it was that it was the perfect size ship. So Carnival Splendor is a medium-sized ship. The capacity, I believe, is under 3,000 guests. So we didn't feel at any point that the ship was crowded. There were lots and lots of public spaces for you to go to. So we loved like the piano bar and the lounges. They had lots and lots of space there. The main deck, so the Lido deck, is set up a little bit different than other Carnival ships. It actually has a covered area. So that is perfect for an Alaskan cruise. You can go sit up against the window and take in the views and not worry about being too cold. So I did really love that. But back to another con that I just thought about was that the Serenity deck was actually in a different location on this ship than any other ship. It was actually on the Lido deck all the way to the aft of the ship. And that's normally where you would find like the pizzeria, and you would find an adults only pool. Well, that was the adults only pool, was the Serenity area. And it was actually an open space. On a lot of Carnival ships, you're able to have that retractable roof on the aft of the ship, so that, you know, if there is inclement weather, they would close that and then you can enjoy that pool and jacuzzis in that back area. But on this ship, it did not have a retractable roof on the back. And that is where the Serenity deck was. So again, I just love that they had this covered area for people to sit out on the deck and enjoy. Something else that we loved about Carnival Splendor was Camp Ocean. This probably was the best kids club that we've experienced with Carnival. Our kids spent pretty much the entire cruise at Camp Ocean. The crew on board the entire ship, but particularly for Camp Ocean, they were amazing. So like there was an issue where we were taking an excursion and we were leaving the kids on board. They decided to open the kids club earlier because the excursion times changed, so that we could leave our children so that we can take this excursion. But they just had all kinds of activities. They had arts and crafts, and they just had a really, really fun time. There weren't a whole lot of kids on this sailing. So that might be one of the reasons why this kids club was super fun. But our kids absolutely loved Camp Ocean on Carnival Splendor. We definitely give them 2 thumbs up. Also, something else that we loved about Carnival Splendor was our cruise director. Our cruise director was Andy, and he was really, really engaging. So he was a comedian, a former comedian on board Carnival Mardi Gras, and he was recently promoted to acting cruise director, but by the end of our cruise, he wound up getting the promotion to be the permanent cruise director. But Andy, we saw Andy all over the ship. He was at every event, and whenever a show whenever it was time for a show, he would tell some jokes, and there was like a comedy show before any of the performances. But he was probably one of the top Carnival cruise directors that we've experienced. Lots of fun, very funny, just really in there and engaging with everyone. All right, now, so the thing that we love the most about Carnival Splendor, and you probably know this if you watched our vlogs, was Tiger Masala. So Tiger Masala is an Indian restaurant that's on the Lido deck toward the aft. And when I tell you the food at Tiger Masala was delicious, it was amazing. And so the very first day of the cruise, we went there because it was a different option. Nothing that I've never seen it on Carnival ships before, but I understand that some ships used to have this Indian restaurant, but it was replaced by Seafood Shack. On this ship, Tiger Masala still exists, and it is delicious. So that, for us, was the best thing about Carnival Splendor. So if you're cruising Carnival Splendor, definitely check out Tiger Masala and leave a comment below. Let us know how you enjoyed it. I honestly wish that they had that on all of the Carnival cruise ships. I could do away with Seafood Shack, but Tiger Masala definitely needs to come back. All right, so now let's get into the ports. What did we like and dislike about the ports? So the very first port that we experienced, of course, was Port of Seattle. And so just overall Seattle, if you didn't watch our vlog, we did explore Seattle for 2 days prior to the cruise. We absolutely loved that Seattle had so many things to offer. We went to the Space Needle, we went to Pike's Market. We just went around sightseeing and exploring all that Seattle, or downtown Seattle, had to offer. So we love Seattle. Now, a con for Seattle is that it is very expensive. So definitely keep that in mind. If you're cruising out of Seattle and you plan to spend a few days in Seattle, particularly downtown Seattle, it can be quite expensive. But the Port of Seattle itself was probably one of the easiest cruise ports that we've gone to. I don't have anything negative to say about it. We had a very smooth check-in process. Everything was really quick. One thing that I do want to highlight that I felt like they did much better than any other Carnival cruise port that we've been to is actually making sure that the guests that have special accommodations actually receive those accommodations. So if you don't know, Andrew is autistic, and so typically whenever you make your booking, they'll ask you if you have any special needs, whether it's a physical need or whether it's like a sensory need or anything like that. And so usually you notate that on the booking, and in the past really nothing really happened because we notated that. But for this sailing, they actually, one of the things they did that I wasn't too sure about was that they pulled him aside to do a second medical screening. It was really quick, but they said that that was because we notated that there were special needs. But they had us sit in a designated area, and then we were the first to board. So anyone that was in a wheelchair, walker, scooter, or had any like sensory needs or autism or anything, they were able to board the ship first. And that has not happened at any other port. So definitely kudos to Port of Seattle for making that happen. But overall, I mean, the crew there at Port of Seattle, just the process, we didn't have to wait too long. It didn't get too crowded for us, although I did hear that it got crowded later on. But for us, the experience was flawless at Port of Seattle. All right, so the next port that we visited it's actually not a port. It's an area that you go through. It's called Tracy Arm Fjord. And this probably was the most scenic and most beautiful port or a place that we visited on our Alaskan cruise. So Tracy Arm Fjord is beautiful. No complaints about that at all. But I do want to share, I'll share more about that in our excursion. We did take an excursion, so I want to give you some tips on if you decide to take that excursion that is offered through Tracy Arm Fjord. But beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Nothing to complain about. All right, then our next port was Juno. And again, Juno was beautiful. When you get to the port right there in Juno, there's a ton of shops and restaurants and things for you to do right there. One of the sites that we visited was the Mendenhall Glacier. We did book that excursion directly through Carnival, but again, Port of Juno right there, it is beautiful. You could actually probably spend the day right in port and not book an excursion. There was just so much to do there. So again, no complaints about Port of Juno. Then our second port or third port was Icy Strait Point, Hoonah. Now, Icy Strait Point is, I guess I could say, an underdeveloped port. There's not a whole lot to do there. They are building it up, it seems, but there were a couple of restaurants, a few shops, like a little village area right there that's walkable from the ship that you can explore there. But there's not a whole lot in Icy Strait Point. Other than there's a lot of wildlife tours and a lot of like whale watching tours. So we did take a whale watching excursion there out of Icy Strait. But again, it's a port where you probably want to plan something to do because you probably could walk through the port in an hour, hour and a half, and then get back on the ship and not have anything to do. So Icy Strait Point, again, it was beautiful. We had a great time on our whale watching experience. We booked that through Juno Travel Adventures. I'll include that link in the description, but we absolutely loved Icy Strait, Juno. There is a gondola that's free that'll take you from Icy Strait Point over to Juno, which is just a 5-minute gondola ride, but it is beautiful. Also, something to know about Icy Strait Point is that they offer a shuttle into the town. Again, there's not a whole lot to do in town, but if you want to experience the downtown area, they do offer a shuttle. I think it was $5 or $10 per person round trip. All right, and then the fourth port that we visited was Ketchikan. And again, Ketchikan, there's lots to do there in port. It's you can walk up and down the strip. There's restaurants, shops, bars. They had the Alaskan Lumberjack show, which we did participate in. But again, no complaints about this port. It was absolutely beautiful. And then our final port was Victoria, British Columbia or Canada. And we did not get off in this port. And actually this port here would probably be the only one that I would say was a con. We did not get off. If you don't know, there is a law that requires cruise ships to dock or port at a foreign port before returning to the US. So the stop to Victoria was just really to satisfy that requirement. So we didn't even get there until almost 9 p.m. and the back on board time was 11:30. So it was not worth us getting off. From what we could tell, it looked like a beautiful area. But just looking at the cost of the excursions, they were pretty high compared to the amount of time that you'd be off. So we actually decided to stay on the boat. So just know that you probably will stop somewhere in Canada on your way back on your Alaskan cruise, depending on, I guess, the cruise line. But like I said, for Carnival, we were just there just a couple of hours. So Victoria was one of our ports. We did not get off there. So overall, we really, really did enjoy the itinerary. But the two things that I would say we were not too thrilled about, one was, and you probably saw this in our videos, were the ramps. So every single port has like really, really steep ramps to get from the ship to the actual port or to the land. And so, and that's due to the high tides there in Alaska. So keep that in mind if you have any mobility issues or if you require additional support. They do offer like little buggies or golf carts that can help get you up those ramps. We did not realize that when we booked it or just in our exploring other vlogs and different things. But the ramps are really, really steep in Alaska. And again, that's not a deal breaker for us. I just want to make sure that you have all of the information for your cruise to Alaska. The other thing that we weren't too happy about with all of the ports, and I don't know if this was just a Carnival thing or if this happens on other cruise lines, but our port times were cut from the time that we initially booked. What I mean by that is, like, we booked, and I recall Juno, we were supposed to be in port from like 7 a.m. to like 4 p.m. Well, it got changed from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. The same for like Ketchikan. I think we got there at 8 o'clock and we were supposed to be there until about 2 or 3, and it got changed from 8 a.m. to 12:30. So definitely, and I don't know why that change happened and if that's something that happens consistently across Alaskan cruises, but keep that in mind when you book your Alaskan cruise. Maybe ask the question, will these port times change? Now, I do know in the cruise contract it says that ports could change, times can change and all of that, but we were disappointed to see that pretty much all of our ports were cut by a couple of hours. And again, I don't know whether that was due to a mechanical issue or whether it was just the scheduling at the ports or if, we just don't know. So just keep that in mind when you book your itinerary for Alaska. Definitely check the port times because we were disappointed to see that the times were short in most of the ports. All right, now let's talk about excursions. So, Alaska is pretty expensive. The cruise itself was pretty expensive. The excursions are even more expensive. So keep that in mind if you're saving up for Alaska. If you take an Alaskan cruise, you could do things in port, but because it's a bucket list cruise, I would recommend saving up to take some of those once in a lifetime excursions. They can be expensive and they do sell out. So most of the excursions that were available for Carnival did sell out before we even boarded the cruise. So definitely keep that in mind and try to save up so that you can experience some of the great things that Alaska has to offer. It can be pricey, but again, if you budget along the way, then you can, of course, experience everything that Alaska has to offer. All right, so the first excursion that we had was the Glacier Explorer, which was booked directly through Carnival. Now this excursion was when we entered Tracy Arm Fjord. So they offered, I believe, 2 different excursions through Carnival for Tracy Arm Fjord. The first one being a helicopter ride that would take you to a glacier. That excursion there, I believe, was like $4.99 or more per person. We did not do that one, but there was one that was called the Glacier Explorer, and it was $189 per person. Now, this was the excursion that we decided to leave the kids on the ship because we just didn't feel like, paying that kind of money for family of 5 and the kids not to pay attention. It just was not worth it to us, and we wanted to experience it. The Glacier Explorer was a nice vessel. It took us through the fjord. We were able to see some wildlife up and close. But in hindsight, now looking at it, I don't know if it was worth the price. And I say this because if you watch my video, and I'll put all the links below, but if you watch the video of this excursion, the ship, for the most part, was able to get through, I'm gonna say probably 3/4 of the fjord. Then it got to a point where the ship had to stop because it could not go through, I guess, because of how shallow it is, or what have you. So I felt like all of the views that we took in on the Glacier Explorer, we could have gotten from our balcony on the ship. So keep that in mind. Also, they offered a AM excursion and a PM excursion. And I'll be honest, if I booked the PM excursion, and so the way it worked is at the entrance up Tracy Arm Fjord, if you were part of the AM excursion, you got off the ship, you got onto the Glacier Explorer, and you took off through the fjord. The ship was right behind us. So if you were PM, by the time we got through the fjord and got through that part where the ship could not go through and we returned to the ship, you've already seen all of the fjord from the ship. So if you're in the PM, all you're going to do is go up and back and meet the ship at the entrance, but you've already seen everything. So just keep that in mind for the Glacier Explorer. It was a beautiful excursion. I love seeing the waterfalls and the sea lions and all of those things up close, but in hindsight now, I don't think it was worth the cost, considering most of it we were able to see from the ship. All right, so the next excursion was in Icy Strait Point, or Huna. And again, we booked this one through Huna Travel Adventures, which was a whale watching experience. This was about 3 hours long, and we absolutely loved it. It was worth the cost. I believe we paid $139 per person for this whale watching experience. And we decided to go with Huna Travel Adventures because the price was pretty comparable to what Carnival was offering, but on Carnival's excursions, it said that they could have between 50 to 100 participants for that excursion, whereas Huna Travel Adventures, the max was 25. And there was actually 22 people on our excursion, and it was beautiful. So I highly recommend you do your research on how many people can actually participate if you're booking the Carnival excursion versus if you book it outside. To us, it was worth it to book outside of Carnival because we felt like this was a more exclusive excursion. So again, it was about 3 hours long. We were able to see several humpback whales. We saw seals, sea otters, all kinds of wildlife. It was beautiful. So this was probably the highlight of our Alaskan cruise. So Icy Strait Point, Huna, again, it was recommended actually by our cruise director that if you're going to do an excursion there, because all the other ports, there's tons of things to do in port. So Icy Strait Point, Huna, definitely try to plan an excursion, and whale watching was top notch there. All right, so the next port was Juno, Alaska. And for this one, we did book our excursion directly through Carnival. And this one here was initially a 2-part excursion where we were gonna go to Mendenhall Glacier and explore there, and then to an Alaskan salmon bake. But we were able to find out that there was another excursion that was similar to ours, where it had 3 parts, which was the Mendenhall Glacier, Alaskan salmon bake, and a salmon hatchery. Well, that excursion did not fill up, so they just kind of scooted us into that one. So we were able to actually go to one additional place there wasn't an additional charge. So highly recommend this excursion. It was a lot of fun. We took about a 30-minute ride to Mendenhall Glacier. We had about an hour and 15 minutes there at the glacier. Now, it does require a lot of walking if you're going to plan to go to Nugget Falls, which is the waterfall out there, but it was beautiful. We had just enough time to walk the mile there, walk the mile back, and get back on our bus. So Mendenhall Glacier is a must-do in Alaska. And again, we booked this one directly through Carnival, but you don't have to, because there at the port, they have what they call Mendenhall Glacier Express, where you can pay to ride the bus to the Mendenhall Glacier, explore for the day, and then they kind of have buses running back and forth. So you don't have to book it through Carnival, but we were glad that we did, because we were able to not only go to Mendenhall Glacier, we went to the Macaulay Salmon Hatchery. We got to see what happens at a salmon hatchery, and then we went off to our Alaskan salmon bake, which was delicious. So this excursion was well worth the price, and we're so glad that we booked it through Carnival. All right, and so our next port was Ketchikan, And again, Ketchikan had different excursions available on Carnival's website. We chose to go with the Alaskan Lumberjack Show. Now, the Alaskan Lumberjack Show, you are able to book this outside of Carnival. It is walking distance from the port. The dock that we were at, it was about a 15-minute walk, but we decided to go with Carnival only because we realized, and we booked this last minute, we realized that our time was cut really short there and we didn't want a chance not getting back on the ship. So the Alaskan Lumberjack Show was, I honestly went into this thinking it was going to be kind of cheesy, but it was a lot of fun. And if you watched our vlog, you saw that Jo Marie was called up on stage and she did get to take home a piece of Alaskan wood that they carved into a chair. So that was pretty cool. So Alaskan Lumberjack Show, we did explore on our own, just kind of walk up and down. We found Creek Street, which was like their red light district back in the day. So definitely lots to explore on your own there in Ketchikan, but the Alaskan Lumberjack Show, I do recommend it, especially if you have a family. It was a lot of fun. And it was pretty inexpensive. It wasn't too much at all, but there's a lot to do in Ketchikan. And that's definitely a port that I have on my need to go back to list. All right, and again, for Victoria, we did not take an excursion. We didn't even get off the ship. It just was not worth it. The hassle getting off right before getting off the ship, disembarking from the cruise. So we decided to stay on the ship, but they offer different excursions where you could do a horse and carriage ride through downtown Victoria. They had it to where you can do a double-decker on and off type bus thing. But just looking at the cost of those excursions, it wasn't worth it to us, especially getting off so late and only having a short time. But again, Victoria, from what we've done our research on and what we could see from the ship, it was beautiful, but just keep that in mind that it's a very, very, very short port day. But again, we didn't book any excursions for Victoria. All right, so that is about it for our cruise to Alaska. Now, when I tell you that this was probably our favorite cruise this summer, it really was. I'm actually looking to plan another Alaskan cruise for next summer. That's how much fun we had. I do think we'll do things differently, having the children. Some of the activities they just were not into, but overall, they liked going to Alaska. It was definitely a different vibe, but something that we want to experience again. So I encourage you, if you have not booked an Alaskan cruise, to go ahead and make that happen, because it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and it was the best thing, the best fun that we had all summer long out of all of our cruises. So again, I'm Raquel from MHFamilyAdventures. Thanks for taking the time to click on this review video. I will have out another video soon on the tips and tricks for Alaska because we had to do a lot of research to prepare for this cruise because it was so different than the others. And I want to be able to provide you guys with some of the tips from our family. So again, thanks for watching this video. And if you love this content, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it out, and be sure to subscribe. We've surpassed our goal of 5,000 subscribers. Our next goal is 6,000 subscribers, and we would love to have you along for the journey. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Jo Marie, what was your favorite part about the Alaskan cruise?
I have a lot of favorite parts.
All right, what was one?
One of them was when we went whale watching.
When we went whale watching? Okay, what else?
The other one was the kids club.
You love the kids club? That was a lot of fun. Was there anything that you didn't like on the Alaska cruise?
Not really.
You loved everything, right? Would you give it 1 thumbs up or 2 thumbs up? All right, 2 thumbs up from Jo. All righty. Would you go back to Alaska again?
Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 thumbs up.
All right, 6 thumbs up. We'll be back in Alaska again. Andrew, what did you like about Alaska?
The people.
The people? The people were nice?
Yeah.
All right. Did you like anything particular about Carnival Splendor?
No.
What? Nothing in particular you can think of?
No.
Did you like the Teens Club?
Yeah.
All right, you like the Teens Club? What was your favorite thing that we did in Alaska?
The whale watching.
The whale watching. Would you go back to Alaska again?
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Dyson, what was your favorite thing about Alaska?
Probably the mountains. I like the scenery.
You like the scenery?
Yeah.
What didn't you like about Alaska?
The
Or Carnival Splendor?
weather was a little cold. It was a little windy some days.
Okay. Would you want to go back to Alaska again?
Yeah.
Did you like Alaska better than Caribbean cruise, or do you like Caribbean cruises better?
I think I like Alaskan.
You like that better?
Yes.
All right, so you had fun?
Yes.
All right, 2 thumbs up or 1?
2.
2. All right, that's from Dice. All right, babe, so what did you enjoy about our Alaskan cruise?
I like going to the salmon hatchery, and I like the salmon bake.
The salmon bake.
Those were the 2 best things I enjoyed.
Okay, and what didn't you like about our Alaskan cruise? Another something, a couple things.
Oh, yes. I did not like all the hours I spent at customer service.
Because of the issue we had. So if you did not watch our vlog, go back and check out, I believe it was our embarkation video where we had an issue with one of our cabins. Anything else?
I didn't like that I didn't win at the casino, but other than that, no.
All right, so we're gonna do Alaska again?
Oh, most definitely.
All right.